We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could ask Councilor Bedison to read our mission statement.
Thank you, Mayor. Silver City is the hub of an inclusive community settled within a small town that, through guided growth, honors and preserves its historical, cultural, and natural heritage while facilitating jobs, health, and educational resources such that the residents and visitors may enjoy and protect the recreational opportunities of the area and high quality of life.
Thank you. There's no ceremonies, no proclamations, and the public input sheet was blank. So the next item is council comments. Councilor Bedison, would you like to start?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Robert Esqueda and the town staff for the new fencing around the town property, the top of 19th Street. It looks good, and the citizens are appreciative of having that done. And I wanted to mention I'm really pleased to see that the work on Cactus Street has started, although my dog is not pleased by the noise. She's barking almost constantly right now. So, but it's good, and the citizens are looking forward to, the residents are having those sidewalks redone. So thank you. I also want to thank the town road crews, the Silver City Police Department, the Silver City Fire Department, Central Dispatch, the town manager, and other staff for their excellent response during the big snow, as some people are calling it. It wasn't too big, but it did stay around for a really long time, and we all know that while we all were at home, nice and warm, we had crews out all night and all the next day trying to make the main highways passable and then answering fire and citizens' request for assistance. So I just wanted to thank everybody for doing that. And on a side note, I just want to remind everyone out there that when you dial 911, please do it for an emergency only. And please do not tie up 911 lines for any sorts of information about the roads. I know that there was a bit of an issue with that. There's other information, ways to access road information and other information in town, so please use that and reserve that for emergencies only. I'm going to ask the chief if he could just briefly talk about what's going on with the rash of tampering with vehicle incidents that occurred during the holiday season. A lot of them occurred right around the District 1 area that I live in. And so just see if you have any helpful information about that or need any assistance.
Just real quick, Mayor, City Council. The early month of December, latter part of November, we had a rash of vehicles that were damaged, either windows broken, damage to the body, etc. So far, we haven't developed any viable suspects on this case. We did quite a bit of background talking to people in the neighborhoods where these happened at. And again, nothing concrete has come up. What we're asking, and again putting this back in the news, what we're asking is if the public has any information, please give us a call. You can call Crime Stoppers. I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but it's in the phone book. Again, we need the community's help on battling some of the criminal activity.
Thanks, Chief. And just as a last note, I want to make mention of something the mayor talked about in December at the town council meeting. He said, you know, we are doing it. The town is actively representing town residents in the P&M rate case and taking the lead in doing so in Grant County. I mean, the mayor really has done an incredible job of this. And in December, it was my privilege, at the request of the mayor and on behalf of the mayor, to represent the town, other municipalities in Grant County and the county, and all of our residents, along with At the PRC hearing, Alex Brown also attended in Santa Fe on the 09 portion of the P&M case. While we and our attorney didn't say very much verbally, our physical presence said much in signifying the town's priority in ensuring that residents receive fair and equitable electric rates. So I appreciate the opportunity to represent the town, county entities and residents on behalf of the mayor in this matter, and I will continue to assist the mayor as requested. This is really a critical thing, along with something that apparently I left out of my little notes here, the hold harmless. Both things are things that are going to impact us. The hold harmless on the food and medical. I think that your town is really actively working. We all are, and I just think folks should know. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been tasked with looking at the animal ordinance, and I just want to let everybody know where we are with that. I've been talking with a lot of folks that are interested in this. I thought it would be interesting to look, when I first started with the council, the mayor asked the citizen groups to do for the strategic plan a systems approach to what they were with the things that they were interested in working on. I wanted to try this out with the animal ordinance. So I'll try to do this as fast as I can. As far as the first concern was the economics, because we're interested in that with the town, and it looks like with if we just do a simple supply-demand curve, one of the problems is that we have supply-demand curves. What happens? The lower axis is value and supply curve. When you have supply that's more than demand, the value is minimal, it's zero. The other economic system that influences the town is that, and I couldn't find a number for specifically for the town of Silver City, but nationally, it looks like it's about $170 to euthanize an animal, an extra animal, even though the replacement cost when you have excess animals is zero. So that's in economics, when you see a differential value for a particular commodity, that's arbitrage. That's a place of opportunity. So that's something that we can really look at. So that's the economic system. The biological system, it looks like a pair of animals can reproduce about 100,000 per decade. And that is what is driving the supply side of that curve. The reason we don't see so many animals is because of carrying capacity. So there's a maximum number of animals out there. The town tends to remove the excess animals, are those that are beyond that carrying capacity. We're looking at the legal system, psychological system. The next one that I'm very concerned with is the social system approach, looking at it from a social perspective. One of the problems with the animal issue is that there appears to be cleavages that are defined by how we interpret how animals should be treated. And so one of the opportunities are that animals can amplify these gaps. So you can have gaps that are defined by socioeconomics. And so things like perceptions about pit bulls, chaining, the aesthetics of cut ears, all those things can split socioeconomic groups. At the same time, animals can bridge those. We see examples of that all the time, petting zoos, stuff like that. And there's also a possibility, and so we want to make sure that this, whatever we do with animals, works to bridge those existing cleavages between social groups and doesn't amplify those cleavages. And the last thing that we're interested in, perhaps, and this has to do with that arbitrage, is that abuse and neglect of animals could be the initial conditions for familial level incarceration probability. So what that means is that the abuse and neglect of animals may help us identify families that need other help. And so anything that we do in terms of the animals is going to require us to look at all these systems, integrate them, and it's looking like the problems aren't going to be solved simply through ordinance. It's going to take a much more holistic approach that's going to have to include neighborhoods, it's going to have to include enforcement, it's going to have to include the town. So that's where that is. Sorry it took so long to get that across.
Councilor Whedon-Smith.
Well, since you mentioned the enforcement side of that, I'd just like to encourage you to look into having some things as being secondary offences. In other words, an offence that doesn't exist unless there's another underlying offence. And specifically, the number of animals. Who really cares if you've got 15 dogs and cats if they're all being pampered, looked after, well, blah, blah, blah. So the issue is for abuse, etc. So I'd encourage you to look at that. What I was going to talk about a little bit this evening is just a quick summary of the last 4 years. Because sometimes I've heard comments, well, the council never does anything. So let's have a look at just 2 or 3 things the council has done. Established the Parks and Recreation Board, which has already produced some very nice product. The complaint process for where citizens have complaints, if they give them to us, we give them to Alex. We have a whole tracking system so stuff doesn't get lost. Raising awareness of the downtown noise issue. I think that's been very successful. Me personally, I've been able to average 4 neighborhood meetings a year. Sometimes these are small, 4 or 5 people. Sometimes these are big, 25 or 30. We've introduced the concept of reviewing how we set fees for the town services. We do that every year now. We've also implemented the automated trash system. We've implemented a new land use code with, correct me if I'm roughly 30 public meetings beginning to end, I think. We've also, and this one took well over 2 years, rewrote the entire code to remove inconsistencies and duplications and things like that. That was a very major effort, and that is beneficial. In the case of Chihuahua Hill, we've done a couple of major water and sewer replacements, and we've done a couple of major street repavings, and I believe there's water planned for this current year at the southern end of it. We did a lot of work on the senior center, potholes and street cuts. Used to get those complaints on average every 10 days. I haven't had a street cut or a pothole complaint for well over a year. I think that was very positive. I think probably the most positive thing of the lot is the recession. We had the worst recession, people will tell us, since the Great Depression. And we, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't cut any full-time regular employees. I know we had a couple of temporaries go. We did have some hour cutbacks. We had some small capital cutbacks. But this was done before the recession got bad. Why? Because we were all looking at it. And this isn't me, this is the council, the city manager who knows where every cent is, every second of the day, the department heads who balance all the different funding sources, and we didn't wind up having to cut services. I just encourage you to take a look at Santa Fe. They're in the hole to what, 2.6 million right now? Something of that order. This is one of the very few towns that's been in the black, didn't cut services, and didn't have to lay off people. And I think that is one hell of an achievement, if I'm allowed to use that word. For the town. My only failure, I think we are actually making progress on, and that's the flooding on Cooper. Alex, if I could ask you if we have any updates on...
Yes, that little area that there's some funding on Cooper, we've looked at a few different options. The original option that we were presented by our engineers was looking to cost about $23,000, and we sent them back to the drawing board, and because of the dollar issues, And we've come up with something that we think is going to work. And actually, Peter's gone out to get quotes, because actually the proposed cost is about between $5,000 and $6,000. So hopefully we should have that done here within the next month.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It'd be a nice going away present for me. And my final comment is, one of the things that I've done with every ordinance and resolution that we've had, where applicable, is I've asked two questions. What's it going to cost? What's the benefit going to be? That's question number one. Question number two, how will we know if it's working? And I think this council has done a very good job of not having spurious and ad nauseum ordinance as a result of that. So I'm very proud of what we collectively, all of us, have achieved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councilor Bedison, I'd like to thank the town staff and all of those involved with the recent snow issue that we had. I think the staff had a plan. They executed that plan very well. And probably more impressive to me is the fact that there was a conscious awareness of a continuous need for improvement. I had a number of calls, I had a number of comments, and as I relayed those to Alex or the applicable person, there was always a response of, yes, we thought of that, and we're going to be looking at changing and trying to improve our systems, try to improve our assets, and try to respond better. It's the staff is not only working very hard, but they're also looking at where we need to improve, and hopefully Alex during reports, or hopefully in the near future, can relay some of those some of those improvements that we're looking at. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody need round two?
I just wanted to add to Councilor Wheaton-Smith's list that he just went through, that he also was one of the folks that proposed the fireworks ordinance, which I think is working very nicely for the town. And I really appreciate the effort that he and former Councilor May put into developing that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll start with the storm response. You know, I really want to thank the town staff that were out there in the cold and long hours working. Right behind them, and immediately when this became evident that it was an issue, there was an incident command set up. The town had all the appropriate staff, as well as our partners, to start both developing a response as well as looking at areas that we can improve in an efficient manner. Alex was our representative on that team. Something I don't think we were quite used to or really prepared for was it got really cold, and it stayed really cold, and the snow turned to ice, and the ice is just very hard to remove. And we're not back east where they're used to this, and you would expect a whole lot more. We just don't have that kind of equipment just hanging out in the yard for a cold spell that hits us every 10 years. You know, my house is 15 years old or so, and I had pipes freeze inside walls that have been there for 15 years, and they've never gotten that cold for that long. So, you know, I think we did a great response with our current system, and Alex worked with the team to make sure that we improve our response in the future. And, you know, we're not going to go out and spend a whole lot of your money to buy a whole fleet of snowplows and tie up all sorts of tax dollars that may not get used again for 10 years. We have to balance our response to what's truly appropriate and reasonable for Silver City. So with that, I want to thank Alex and the work that you did in evaluating where we can go from here to improve that response. And another thing that Alex is aware of this. I happen to get a little better view of some equipment that actually is not the town's, but we are related to it. And it was in really bad shape. And the comfort creatures in this equipment were horrible. And I really would like to see you direct the town directors and staff to make sure when we got staff sitting in equipment all day long, that they're sitting on good seats, and that they, we've said it before, we say it every time that contracts come up, we know we don't pay them enough. Let's at least try to make the quality of their job and the comfort of their job enjoyable as best we can. I think it's a fairly cheap and reasonable thing that we can provide the staff. The equipment that I saw, I took pictures and sent them to Alex, and it's being fixed. But the driver of the truck was like, you'd have thought he won the lottery when I told him, we will fix that. I mean, this guy sits at this truck all day long with a seat with bars sticking out of it. And I'd like to make sure that the directors check all their equipment, make sure that it's in good operating condition, and that's a comfort issue, but it's an important one, I think. The council pretty much covered the other issues as far as the hold harmless. I could tell you, I met with Brian Moore. He's the Director of Legislative Services for Governor Martinez, and the first thing he said to me when he walked up to me was, I suppose the hold harmless is a concern of yours. Unprovoked, he knew exactly where I was going to talk to him, what I was going to talk to him about. They're well aware of it. If you look at all the pre-filed bills right now, there's no attack on the hold harmless that's been pre-filed. We're going to work that issue and do our best not to lose that funding source, or to put it to where they force it into a referendum where you have to choose a new tax. And just the delay in doing that in the current atmosphere, who wants to impose a new tax? We don't, and I'm sure the citizens don't. So I don't think that would be beneficial. They created the problem. They need to fix it. We've already started some good dialogue with the new administration, and it's going very well. Obviously, it's tough times. Everybody's taking cuts. Simon highlighted some of the areas of efficiency that we've taken, and I want to point out once again, when we had our strategic planning session last year on the budget, Alex went on for 30 minutes and ended his discussion with, so it's basically business as usual. And what he had talked about for 30 minutes was all the efficiency measures that he had implemented in the town operations that kept our staff working, kept services to all of you, and the basic economy of this government functioning very well. And to Alex, it was business as usual. To me, it was quite remarkable that, one, that he just didn't feel it was a big deal. Two, was that he actually implemented a lot of projects in a matter of just a few short months to make sure that we maintain services to the citizens. And we continue to do that, and we've actually got some of that on the agenda tonight. So, once again, I think you're doing a good job. It is a new year. I want to thank all the directors in the department heads, some of which are here tonight, for your dedication to the town and the citizens in providing services that benefit us all. So, thank you, and look forward to another year with you. And with that, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the regular meeting December 14th, 2010.
Mr. Mayor,
Council.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of December 14th, 2010.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Town Council, December 14th, 2010. Is there any discussion? There's a motion, a second, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is reports. You want to start with?
Yeah, let's start with that.
So we have a library report on library forum, vision, and programs by Eileen Sullivan, the library director. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, good evening, and thanks for having me here this evening to give the report on the, the report this evening basically is to give you an update on the public library forum that was held early in November, and sort of the results of that forum and what we're doing at the public library going forward. The forum was sponsored by the Library Foundation Board, and I'd like to thank David Gershenson, who's here tonight, who is our Library Foundation Board President, as well as and Cynthia is a member of the Library Board. Library Board. So I'd like to thank our board members who really were very instrumental in getting the forum planned and helping with the publicity and planning for that, as well as for their just ongoing dedication and commitment and support to the library. The purpose of the forum was really threefold. It was to initiate an ongoing dialogue between the public libraries and the citizens in the county, to inform the public about key library issues and developments, and also to solicit feedback from the community to help guide the development of our resources, services, and programs. Basically, we presented the vision for the library. We talked about some of the trends and the challenges that are affecting libraries both nationally as well as here within our own community, and what these trends, what the impact is of those trends and how we're addressing them here in our community, as well as providing time for public comment and feedback. The library vision, I like to think that the vision is really something that we create together as a community, and it's something that we'll continue to create as we move forward and as we have this dialogue between the library and the public. But a primary guiding vision or philosophy for the library is that the public library fosters and sustains community. And it does that by providing a welcoming space for all of our citizens, by connecting people to ideas, and by building strong relationships through shared cultural experiences. One of the things that's happening nationwide is that libraries are really undergoing some major changes to our core mission and values. We're being asked to do things we've never been asked to do before in communities. Technology is changing incredibly rapidly, and the changes in technology also are changing the way that we operate and the demands and the requests that are being made upon public libraries. Sometimes I get the feedback that there becomes sort of a viewpoint of technology versus print or versus books. And I really like to think of looking at the library in a much broader way and keeping in mind what our primary mission is, and that this is not really a conflict between technology and between our printed materials. But we really need to look at our bigger mission, which is to inspire, it's to inform, and it's to educate. It's really about making connections and sharing knowledge and creating meaning. One of the things I love about working in libraries is that they are truly inclusive institutions in our communities, and they celebrate and nurture our human potential. And I really mean that for every single citizen of our community. What makes a strong library? I think we can narrow it down to three primary things. One is content, and that is having a strong collection that really reflects the needs of an individual community. So that the materials and the resources that we have may look very different than the materials and resources in some other community, but they meet our community's needs, and that we provide these in diverse formats. That may be print, it may be large print, it may be electronic media, it can be many different types of formats. Collaboration is really vital, and I think for us we're really looking at developing local partnerships. We're actively working to build partnerships in our community, partly to bring in services and programs into our library, but also to support our larger community needs, priorities, and initiatives. Community is the third one here, and I said that we foster and sustain community, but we also need a strong community and strong community support for us to remain a vital resource. Some of the trends that we see right now that are affecting us is that we've become a primary source of high-speed internet access in the community. And this is really important to workforce development, ongoing education, continuing education. We do a lot of job skill development, sometimes very much one-on-one, helping people set up email accounts, learn how to use a computer for the very first time, proctoring online exams, helping people with job applications and searching for jobs in the community. Another thing that we see happening is that many governmental organizations and services are becoming more online-based. Things that used to be available in paper are no longer there in paper. Many of the services that you used to go to an office to get are no longer available face-to-face, that many government agencies are putting their services online. People are accessing Social Security information online. They're doing their updates, weekly updates for their unemployment online. This year we're going to have a big change with IRS. Most of you, I think, know that you're not going to be receiving your forms and publications directly anymore in your mail to you at home. We do have paper forms and applications available at the public library, but they're really pushing the idea of going online to access those publications, to access the forms, and a lot of people are e-filing as well. So we are anticipating a continued increase in this area. The other thing that we see happening is more demand for electronic books, the downloadable books, things like the Kindles and the Nooks, as well as downloadable audiobooks as well. And this has a big impact for us in terms of collection development, because where we used to only purchase an item maybe in a paper format, now we're getting demand for that same thing in a number of different formats, which can make our collection development process much more difficult. And then the last one I find sort of the most interesting, which I call community central. I think we all have the image of the library where we walk around and go shh and are hushed. And what we're finding now is that the libraries are really becoming community centers in many ways. It's where people come to meet other people. It's a social place as well as providing the traditional library functions. Some of the specific needs that we've identified in our community that we're really trying to meet are those around economic and workforce development, education, access to government services, health information, and a sense of place in the community. And I won't go through the list of things that we're working on right now, but I wanted to highlight a few of the new initiatives, things that we've either initiated in the last year or are looking at implementing soon. The first one is something that we refer to as Tutor.com. It's an online interactive program or service where students or individuals can access a tutor online interactively through the computer, and you can do this either at home or at the public library using just your library card ID number. So if you need help with your algebra homework, or you're working on a science project, you can actually go on interactively and get that kind of help. The other thing that I've been excited about with Tutor.com, particularly with the economy the way it's been and the recession that we've seen, is it also provides a lot of career services. And so you can get real-time help on your resume, updating your resume, interviewing skills, a lot of test preparation, things like your GED test preparation, other types of tests as well. And also through Tutor.com, we've been able to offer some webinars around career services, primarily resume writing and interviewing skills at the public library in the last several months. We also initiated a Library House concert series. We're doing small concerts at the library. We have about a room that seats about 60. And the emphasis has been on music that works well in a small setting, and the idea being that we want to present this music in a very small and intimate environment where the audience can really interact with the musicians and has an opportunity to come together and build community around music. Another project that we'll be launching, we were hoping to do it in January, and there were some changes with the timeline through the state library. It's a program called Fast Forward New Mexico, and again, this is one that I think is relevant particularly to workforce and economic development. The funding from this is federal stimulus funds coming through state library, and it's a program to teach computer and internet skills and introduce those skills in communities throughout New Mexico. We're one of 16 public libraries participating in the program. And they will be doing 2 levels of training through this program. Free training to people in the community. You'll be able to come into the library or sign up online for the classes. One is very basic, from how do you turn the computer on, how do you use a mouse, what do you need to know about software in terms of security for your computer at home. And the second level of training is geared more towards businesses and entrepreneurs, and using the internet to promote your business and to be more efficient in your business practices. And the last one here that I'd like to highlight is going to be, we're going to have an event towards the end of February launching the Kilowatt Monitor program. This is in partnership with PNM. You'll be able to check out little monitors or devices at the library that you can take home, plug your appliances or your electrical appliances into those and find out how much energy those appliances are taking to help you better manage your energy use at home. In terms of our impact, I think this is an interesting slide for the community. This data comes directly from our annual report that we submit to the state library every year. And on an average day in our public library, we have 211 people visiting the library, 50 computer sessions, and 278 items that are borrowed. And you can see yearly what that means in terms of our annual statistics. I was playing around with some numbers and looking at this 87,000 items borrowed, and an average cost of about $15 per book or per item. And this is a conservative figure. I've seen some of the kind of calculators out there for libraries that really estimate it to be closer to $25 per item. This is signifies about over $1,305,000 that our library patrons would have to pay for those materials if they had purchased those items themselves. And so what that means, if you look at our budget for the town, for each dollar that we're spending on library services, there's a return of over $3 per dollar spent. And this doesn't even take into consideration the programming that we provide for children, for adults in our community, the computer use, a huge one, the DSL costs if you had DSL at home, as well as the maintenance and kind of upgrades of computers and just the number of computer sessions. It also doesn't take into consideration things like our proctoring of exams for students, or any of the items that are actually used in the library and not checked out. So I think the actual return on investment, if you would put it that way, to the town is significant for our library services. One other thing I'd like to mention is that also, when I'm talking about dollars and numbers here, doesn't measure at all any of the intangible benefits that I think are really critical in any community. And those are the acquisition of new knowledge, new skills that are gained, and just the general potential that we gain as a community through the services and materials that we have. So in terms of the forum feedback, the primary thing that we heard is that the community is concerned about our collection, that collection development is a primary concern. We would like to see more books in our library and more diverse types of materials in the library. One of the things that we're going to be doing to begin addressing this is to have a community survey. The survey will be ready to go out at the end of January. It'll be available in paper at the public library and at City Hall. It'll also be available interactively online through the town website. And I'd really like to encourage everybody to either stop in and fill out the paper survey if that's what you're most comfortable with, or go online and take the survey. The survey is somewhat broad. It is going to give us more information about the types of services and programs that the community wants. But we also have a section in there that's pretty specific about different subject areas, different kinds of materials that will really help us develop a good collection development policy and address the collection development issues for the library. And with that, I'd just like to close with a slide that I think sums up for me what our library is about, and that libraries really connect communities. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry. I wanted to say, I'm so sorry, David. David Gershenson, who is our foundation president, is going to just give a little bit of an update on the foundation as well.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, let me just start by saying that I was appointed to the committee that was charged with reviewing and interviewing applicants for our executive director or the library director position. And we had some really good applicants. And we were to give Alex our recommendation. I can tell you that Eileen was our unanimous recommendation. And in my opinion, the town couldn't possibly have a more experienced, dedicated, energetic, and visionary director. We're blessed. Uncharacteristically, I've written out some notes for my comment in the hope of keeping it as brief as possible. It's part of my anti-fumfering New Year's resolution. So, I haven't given the town council a report on the Library Foundation in a couple of years, mostly because we've been really treading water for all that time. As you know, the foundation was formed some 10 years ago, shortly after getting a bequest from the Lemuel Forward estate for roughly $500,000. That was to be used solely for capital expenditures on behalf of the library. As you also know, for the first 8 years of our existence, we were focused solely on finding a new site and building a new library. For most of that time, the town was supportive of that goal, and the town even designated a property specifically for the site of the new library. That position changed a little over 2 years ago, and shortly after that, the foundation reluctantly but pragmatically accepted the fact that for whatever economic and or political reasons, a new library was not a realistic option at this time, and perhaps for not some time to come. We also came to the conclusion that after 8 years, now it's been 10 years, the foundation in town had every ethical, moral, if not legal, obligation to utilize the Merle Forward bequest for the purpose for which it was intended: capital expenditures for the improvement of the public library. Knowing that a new library director would be appointed in mid-2010, the foundation did not want to research a wish list of capital expenditures, nor make recommendations to the town until a new director was hired and could be totally involved in and lead the process. With the appointment of Eileen Sullivan, that process has now begun, and we are moving forward as quickly as possible. Something very exciting to me, I recently recruited my friend architect Mark Richard to advise us in regard to ideas for my personal pet project, which is exploring ideas to make the children's area more aesthetically pleasing and inviting for kids, along with more interesting and unique types of reading areas. Mark met with Eileen and I several weeks ago at the library, and in addition to the children's area, Mark has now volunteered to do an assessment of the entire library. In addition to several meetings with Eileen and myself, Mark will also be interviewing every staff member, privately and individually, to get their candid thoughts. Mark's efforts should result in an invaluable wish list of capital improvements for the library, and this kind of study would have cost us thousands of dollars if it were not for Mark's generosity in sharing his time and his expertise. The Memorial Forward bequest now stands at a little over $600,000. The only one project that the town has approved of is installing a new roof plus new heating and air conditioning. Alex, I think an RFP is going out on that soon.
Yes, hope.
And would you guess that the cost will probably be somewhere around $200,000 in that area? Okay. So that's going to leave us with something like $400,000 to spend. It sounds like a lot of money, and $400,000 is a lot of money, but it's nowhere near enough to do everything that is badly needed. But we don't need to do everything all at once, and the improvements can be done in stages. The important thing is that we thoroughly research and identify what needs to be done before any decisions are made, and that is happening now. The Library Foundation is committed to doing whatever is necessary to raise funding for additional projects once the bequest has been exhausted, and that will be our focus and our primary reason for existing as we move forward. While the foundation is a 501c3 organization and will be raising our own money, I want to assure you that no monies will be spent without the town's knowledge and pre-approval. The foundation obviously realizes that the library is a property of the town, and so it's unthinkable that anything would be done to the library without your knowledge and your approval. But I think there's a whole new direction and a whole new purpose, and it's really, really exciting to be involved in it.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
I don't normally do this, but you mentioned my day job, but about a year or so ago, we got a grant from the National Library of Medicine to develop a health library, and we did partner with the Silver City Library to put some health information down in the Silver City Library, as well as develop a larger library that's currently located at the Grant County Business and Convention Center. And I encourage people that if you have questions about health issues, go in. I've got staff there that will help you find what you need, either on paper. We've got computers set up for internet access. There's brochures that you can take. There's books you can check out. And if you want privacy, it's very underutilized. And it's truly a great resource. So feel free to stop by, just go in the big main doors at the Grant County Business and Conference Center, and you walk into the library. So that resource is out there. And are there any questions on the report? Do you have a question?
Yeah, just a real quick question. David, have you thought about holding some focus groups for patrons for Mark to talk with them about what ideas they might have?
Absolutely. Actually, the first forum that Eileen had mentioned that we have is only meant sorry. The answer is yes. And the first forum that we had was meant to be the first of an ongoing series to be held whenever it's felt that it would be productive to get the feedback from the community. And we think it would be most productive to have a lot of ideas to present when we do meet with the community, to give them things to feed off of rather than just starting off cold. So we expect to have the feedback with all Mark, I'd say within next month. What was the date we had said? somewhere around there, in the next month or so. But we're definitely planning on moving forward, and
And David, it will also coincide with the surveys, getting surveys out as well. And there's a lot of information on the community survey that will also help in terms of space planning, just in terms of programs.
And the community surveys then and that, is there any way to encourage that kids participate because they're patrons too? And
You know, one of the places...
Eileen, I gotta get you to come up, or nobody else could hear you.
One of the things that we'll be doing in terms of the survey is having it available at the Love Your Library Day that we have on February 12th. And we expect quite a few families to be there that day with children, and so I'm hoping we get some good feedback in terms of, participation with the survey at that time. And I'll be talking to other people in the community as well and seeing where we might be able to get those out. So if you have specific ideas, you can let me know when
I would just recommend the 6th Street Elementary School, since they
Okay.
had a big day there at the library.
Right. Okay.
And I would think that that would be a great place to start,
Okay.
to work with the teachers that brought those classes.
Great, thanks. I think that's a great suggestion.
Cynthia, one of the things that I can assure you that the foundation learned, a really good lesson going back 10 years ago, is never to assume that we know what the community wants, and that to include the community from day one in the planning process. So the feedback will be sought after.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Winston?
I just wanted to comment, Eileen, on a couple of things. I like the vision was much more expansive than I thought it might be, and I thank you for that. And the second one is, you had some measurements there, cold hard facts and numbers, which I think are essential for justifying things and for comparing progress. And they were simple. Even I could understand them. Thank you.
We'll move on. Alex?
Just a couple things. I just wanted to report on the snow event that we had. I just want to say what a good job the police, fire, public works, and utilities departments did during the response. It was a very good learning experience. We took the opportunity to identify areas that we could do better at. The departments, when we were sitting at Central Dispatch, it was a really good learning experience for me, because we were sitting in Central Dispatch as the calls were coming in. The police were identifying problem areas, and we were able to coordinate between Public Works and Utilities where the equipment needed to be focused at. We also opened up the rec center just in case there were any stranded motorists. The Utilities Department and Public Works had employees out in four-wheel drives checking on stranded motorists to see if they needed any help or ride, whatever it might be, to assist the police and such. We also identified while we were sitting there, we have equipment that we could mount additional snow plows and salting equipment on. So we do have, we have three, currently we have one vehicle that's equipped with that. But we found out we have three additional vehicles that could be equipped with it. So we're in the process of looking for equipment for one additional vehicle. Again, going back to the mayor's response, how much are we going to invest in? But we identified that we do need some more as far as salting and those types of things. Also, we were able to coordinate. The state DOT wasn't. We were informed from the beginning that they weren't going to be able to get to our highways in town anytime soon. So our blade was down. So the staff, the Public Works and Utilities, were able to call Southwest Concrete and Paving, and they put a blade out there to do the highways right away. So the response was very quick, and it was a really good learning experience. I mean, down to the fact that we had a hard time getting some of the police vehicles up to the city shop to put snow chains on. Well, we came up with a plan. Well, next time, bring the chains down to the vehicles I mean, there's little things like that could increase response time and efficiency. Also, when it comes to the garbage collection, you know, we were in the middle of collecting one of the larger routes. One garbage trucks got stuck. So we now have, within the next couple weeks, the backup side loader will be here. So we're going to have a backup. So if we get in a situation like that, we have to go out the next day. We're going to have additional equipment to go out and complete our routes and do the garbage collection. And not pertaining to this, but on top of that, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months, that, I don't know if you remember when we made the presentation on the automated garbage collection system, we were going to add large item pickup program. We're in the process of purchasing that vehicle right now. So hopefully within the next 3 months, we will have that equipment so that we can start scheduling large item pickups like one time a week, where you'll be able to put out a couch or a washer or a dryer, so you don't have to go out to the landfill and take stuff like that. We'll coordinate things like that and pick it up for you. Aside from that, our audit was released, so it is public now. The council will have to approve it, so Mike Stone isn't, he took vacation right after the audit season, so he should be here at the beginning of February. So the first meeting in February, we'll schedule that for approval. There were no findings, so hopefully you'll approve that, accept that. So I just wanted to let you know on that. Any questions?
Councilor Edison.
You just reminded me, Alex, wasn't there something somewhere on the line that, last year maybe, that you talked about coordinating Southwest Solid Waste Management's schedule with the town schedule? Because I know that Friday, you know, they were closed.
Yeah.
And it's one of the bigger areas, like you said, with a lot of commercial.
Yeah, there was just no way of fixing that, because the road down to the landfill, we just couldn't get up and down the equipment, so...
But I meant coordinating the town's pickup schedule, holiday schedule, because...
Yeah,
it was a
actually,
holiday for them.
they have changed their schedule, so...
No, they have. Okay.
They are open, at least for us,
Okay.
and they do the recycling collection when we're working on a holiday. So they have the same schedule as we do now.
That was just that day because of the storm.
Yeah,
so
it was just a
okay.
day because of the snow.
Great, thank you.
Any questions?
Ann, you want to talk about the elections?
Yes, sir. I would like to announce the names of the certified candidates for the municipal election on March 1st. For Councilor District 1, we have Cynthia Ann Bettison. And for Councilor District 3, there's Kyle Von Holton, who happens to be in the audience.
Wave, Kyle.
Today was the day for persons to declare as write-in candidates, but nobody filed. So we have those 2 candidates only. I wanted to also say that absentee voting begins at City Hall on January 25th through February 25th. The voting machines will be there on February 9th. And to remind people that the last day to register to vote for the municipal election with the county clerk is February 1st by 5 p.m. So anyone who wants to vote in the election must make sure that their name and address is correct with the county clerk, so please check your registration. And one more thing, I will be conducting an election training for the election workers on February 24th. We do that every year.
And we will be continuing the modifications that you made to your processes last year.
Oh, yes.
They'll continue this year.
Mm-hmm. They worked very well last year, so.
Great. Thank you. And thanks to those of you that filed and basically get elected by acclamation.
Well, we have to have one vote.
Pull it off. Chief, any report?
Mayor, City Council, just a couple of quick comments, no real reports. As for what Ms. Brown was talking about in reference to the actions taken on that day when we had the bad storm, and in fact, that was our Office of Emergency Management for the town being activated. Probably within the next month, we'll be presenting a manual to the City Council for certification. I'm hoping by this next one or the first one in February, we'll get that completed. But we've activated that Office of Emergency Management on a couple of occasions. Some of it was criminal activity, some of it was, as an example, this case here. That worked pretty well. We're still tweaking it. We'll always tweak it. It's a living document. We'll continue to evaluate it and make adjustments as we need to. As for the year-end stats, I should have all the staff completed by the next City Council meeting and have that to the City Council for review.
Thank you. Any other department head have a report? Alrighty. Councilor Benson.
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
Seconded.
There's a motion and a second for a short break. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're in recess. We'll call this meeting back to order. After all the discussion about community, I hate to break that up, but the next item on the agenda is under unfinished business, and this is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1169, an ordinance amending the Town of Silver City Code of Ordinance by adding a new Chapter 9 establishing an affordable housing program pursuant to the Affordable Housing Act, defining terms, establishing application requirements and review criteria, and establishing procedures to administer an affordable housing program. This is a second and final reading of this ordinance, and Mr. Ely is here if any of you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, member of the council, or council members, excuse me. As you mentioned, this ordinance number 1169 is to allow the town to donate infrastructure, money, property, or anything to an affordable housing project if they so choose. And by passing this ordinance, it will meet all the requirements of the state affordable housing law.
Are there any questions? Comments? Motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Morales.
I move to approve ordinance number 1169, an ordinance amending the Town of Silver City Code of Ordinance by adding a new Chapter 9 establishing an affordable housing program pursuant to the Affordable Housing Act, defining terms, establishing application requirements and review criteria, and establishing procedures to administer an affordable housing program.
Mr. Mayor, I motion. Second, yeah, that's the word. I second the motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve as read. Is there any discussion? There's a motion and a second, no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilor Morales?
Aye.
Councilor Ruth?
Aye.
Councilor Johnson?
Aye.
Councilor Benson?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of ordinance number 1175, an ordinance amending Chapter 34, Section 179, unlawful noises of the town's municipal code, and this is also a second and final reading of this ordinance. Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bringing this ordinance before us to help bring a noise ordinance that's more clear, more substantive, more concise and comprehensive than what was on the books before. This has been reviewed and looked at since I believe 2007, and we had a noise committee established and worked on it substantively. This particular noise ordinance is based off of model ordinances, and it's a hybrid method. It utilizes a hybrid method, which means that it has subjective standards, reasonable person standards, and it also has objective standards, helping residents, helping enforcement officers understand it and utilize it more effectively. From the NOI that we did in November, we've had a month and a half of comments and concerns, and we've made a few minor tweaks to this ordinance, or I'm suggesting some minor tweaks to this ordinance, mainly in the form of making time frames more consistent, that they fit in with the night and day criteria established in the definitions between 8 and 8, and also taking out some redundancies where we had some paragraphs that were duplicative and such. Outside of that,
Thanks. Any comments from the audience? Kurt?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Kurt Elbershart from the Murray Hotel. Currently is located downtown and going to start making some noise later this year. So I wanted to thank the town and Mr. Scavron for clarifying the time windows. That was a personal complaint of mine when I read the ordinance. There were so many overlapping time periods that I figured it would be hard enough for the citizens to understand it, and the officers would have a heck of a time trying to figure out what to do if they were trying to enforce it. I think there's a lot more clarity in this, and it reads much better. I do have a couple of concerns about time windows. One of them is the music, loudspeakers, amplifiers, etc. in paragraph F on page 9. The 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. window, I believe, may be a bit of a challenge for some of the establishments that are using live music as entertainment. They typically run a little later than that now. I know that for the beer and wine licensees, which constitutes most of ours due to our current state licensing systems, their requirement is to get alcohol off the table by 11 o'clock at night. And so it might not be unreasonable, in my opinion, to allow a band to play until 11 o'clock at night. I think later than that is probably pushing it without some kind of special permit, which is adequately covered in the ordinance. My other question was regarding construction. 8 a.m. is later than a lot of contractors start work, and I don't know if the Home Builders Association has weighed in on this. I don't know if they're even aware of it, but I think you're going to find that a lot of construction sites show up at 7 or 7:30. If they show up at 7, there's probably going to be power tools by 7:30, so you've got another potential area of conflict there that may not be an issue, but you may want to think about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Do you want to respond?
yes, Mr. Mayor. On F, that time frame, the 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. is when it's adjacent to residential areas. So commercial, those establishments in commercial areas, this isn't addressed in here. That would be following the basic reasonable person standards, as opposed to this specific restriction.
Okay, that clarification helps, and that is one of my concerns before was the adjacent to a residential area. If I'm in a commercial zone, but like most of downtown, I got residences a block away. Am I adjacent to a residential area?
You have residents inside a commercial.
So I don't qualify as adjacent to a residential. That was my concern, because we have, for example, downtown, we have a number of apartments on the second floor of older buildings that have single pane glass and are right downtown. And I believe that when those people moved in, they had a reasonable expectation of noise. However, depending on how this ordinance is interpreted, they could move in and then start shutting down people's businesses. And I'm not sure we want that. And I don't know if that's a possibility here or not. Okay.
I don't believe so. I might have Councilor Scavron clarify that issue.
I want to respond a little bit. I mean, if you read this entirely, it's the unreasonably loud and raucous use or operation of a loudspeaker, amplifier, public address system, or other device, etc. Are you planning unreasonably
Hopefully
loud
not.
and raucous use?
But I know that people have defined a band playing outdoors or with an open window as unreasonable in some places. I'm not reading intent into this. I'm just telling you my experience as a sound guy who has been metered, monitored, and told to turn it up or turn it down by a lot of people. And I am going to be in a position where we may have bands playing out on our patio on a summer night, and that sound's going to travel. And I'm aware of that, and I always want to make sure that we have an understanding of what that means. I know that when we had the black tie ball there recently, the really good news was that as long as those windows were closed, you didn't even hear it halfway down the street to the halfway point of the hotel, never mind in front. I'm talking just around the corner. The bad news is when we opened the windows because it got too hot in there, you could hear it all over downtown.
And Mr. Mayor, this being the unreasonably
That's the
loud-
standard, is reasonableness.
It is a reasonable person standard, and those individuals who are renting residential apartments in a commercial district should have an expectation of noise
I would believe
that
so,
is
yes.
greater than a residential area.
Okay.
On the construction area, we actually talked about this a lot.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why we gave permitting, we gave the manager, the town manager, the ability to grant permission to do certain
Variance,
construction,
yeah.
to give variances
Okay.
and allowances for some construction projects outside that timeframe.
Councilor Winsman?
Just a comment for you. Almost exclusively in the last 4 years, all the noise complaints I've had have been intermittent noise where you don't get used to it. And a good example is the boom boxes. Some people think I spend my whole life counting boom boxes downtown. But that is much more disruptive than a band continuing to play. Those are not the complaints I've been getting. And we have had enforcement downtown on that. And at times we've been running 16 a month. I haven't checked recently what it is. But I haven't had any complaints on downtown, whereas a year ago, I was still getting them. Last month or two, I haven't. So again, it's unreasonable, and you have a continuous noise, and that's a lot different for a human being than boom boxes and things that you can't get used to.
Councilor?
I was just thinking, Mayor, I was just going to say that I think that under F, there's number 2 on the next page. On page 10, which addresses any music originating from or in connection with the operation of any commercial establishment or enterprise. And that the measurements taken inside any receiving property, and then it has the 2 things. So that does relate to the music.
Yeah, I understand, but my receiving properties are fairly close, and that was my concern, and I believe it's been addressed. In other words, if I make noise, there are apartments, say, above Toy Town that are going to get that noise. It's going to hit them. And there are some houses that are fairly close, and obviously I want to be a good neighbor, but I want to make sure that we're not creating a situation where this is able to be used to, change things in a way that was unexpected, I guess.
Well, and I think, Kurt, what this is trying to do is balance that to allow you to conduct your business in a manner that's friendly, as well as protect the neighbors. That's a real fine line.
Oh, I know. It was quite a process.
Also, understand that this is a document that's fluid, and as things progress and the council evaluates them, we may have to make some changes. There was there was an ordinance on the books that said it was illegal for dogs to bark unnecessarily from 10 at night to 9 in the morning. Well, when is it appropriate for a dog to bark unnecessarily? You know, and that was changed.
Good point.
So,
I would just advise you that 45 dBA is a pretty low level, and it may be perfectly fine, but it may need to be revisited. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I think most of the noises that we're talking about, that people complain about, and I'm one of those people, at 4 stories up I hear open pipes louder than almost anybody in town. Those noises are well over 100 dB at 50, 60 feet. I mean, I've been at pain threshold on one side of the street when somebody gunned one of these things. That's over 120. That's environmentally hazardous. We're not talking about that kind of level of noise here.
do you by chance know what the ambient noise level is downtown?
I can tell you in a couple days, but I don't know now.
Mike?
I do not.
Yeah, we've had this discussion for months, and I discussed the story about me and Mr. Scarborough were walking downtown, and walking down Bullard, the same traffic is horrendously louder on Bullard than it is if you walk across to Hudson. Mm-hmm. You get this tunnel effect on Bullard that you don't. And it would be interesting, and I hope somebody does check it very soon, what the ambient level at different times.
Yeah, I've got nice new double pane windows in the hotel, and they're really good at blocking sound, but most of the buildings downtown have some pretty minimal acoustic barriers in the form of their windows. Well, thank you.
Can you live with this?
I can live with it. It's a good start. It's a lot better than we've had.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions from the audience? There are none. Council? Councilor Bedison.
Mayor, I'd just like to comment on the fact that I appreciate the section on enforcement that deals with unreasonable noise created by animals, because I think it is consistent with current practice that the officers follow in the town, and so I appreciate that. I'm glad that it's written down where the public knows that that is the method by which animal noise complaints are addressed.
Councilor Winston.
And I have had several meetings with citizens in the district individually, and one of the things they liked was the hybrid nature of this, where there's two different ways to go: reasonable personal or the objective DVA standards. And their comments have been positive.
First, I'd like to commend Councilor Moronis for working through this issue and using all of the available resources to come up with a document that I consider to be a quality document. I do have some concerns on the enforcement side, on how enforceable this is consistently. However, I also think, and Councilor Thompson referenced this on a whole other subject earlier, but when we write laws, a lot of it is sending out a warning. It's sending out a acceptable community standard, and we're fully expecting compliance with that versus having to send people to knock on your door to ask you to not violate your neighbors. And this is one of those ordinances, one of those topics really, where if we were all just a whole lot more considerate of each other, this ordinance would be totally unnecessary, but we're not. So I just hope that what we're doing with this is sending a warning, we're setting a standard of what's acceptable in the community, and that enforcement does not become an issue. And thank you, Councilor Moronis, for the good work.
Just to add to that, all the work that I read from the noise ordinance committee and from all the comments I've received, the discussions with Mr. Scavron and the police chief, and
this is a very balanced approach. You know, it demands that we pay, we give respect to our fellow citizens, but it also mandates that we have some tolerance for our fellow citizens as well, and we do allow certain noises, and we accept those noises. But we do establish a standard, and it's a nice balanced standard.
Any other discussion? Councilor Morales?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 1175, an ordinance amending Chapter 34, Section 179, unlawful noises of the town's municipal code, with all the tweaks and adjustments that we made since the NOI.
And I second the motion as stated.
There is a motion to approve ordinance number 1175, an ordinance amending Chapter 34, Section 179, unlawful noise of the town's municipal code. Is there any other discussion? There's a motion, a second, no further discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilor Morales?
Aye.
Councilor Beasley?
Aye.
Councilor Johnston?
Aye.
Councilor Bedison?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2011-01, open meetings. Yeah.
Mayor and councilors, I'd like to ask for your approval on the open meetings resolution. We routinely adopt an open meetings resolution the first meeting in January. And this one is the same as last year, with the exception of changing the regular meeting dates on page 2. Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Edison.
I move that we approve resolution number 2011-01, open meetings.
Second the motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2011-01. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Bessie.
I'd just like to thank Ann for adjusting the times after we did the resolution to change the times of meetings. Thanks for doing that.
Just so the public knows, it's basically nothing changes as far as our meeting schedule. We meet in this room at 6 p.m. on the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, and the agendas are available 24 hours before the meeting at least. And we'll probably cancel a few of those meetings because they're real close to holidays. So, any other discussion? There's a motion and a second, no further discussion. Roll call.
Councilor Bedison?
Aye.
Councilor Johnston?
Aye.
Councilor Wheaton Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Miller?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of March 1st, 2011 election workers. Ann?
Yes, I'd like to ask your approval of the list of municipal election workers for the March 1st election. All of these persons have worked elections previously, with the exception of 2 of them, but they will all be trained in an election school on February 24th by myself. The 2 new ones will actually be working with very experienced people, in addition to being trained on February 24th, so I ask for your approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Bessie.
I move we approve March 1st, 2011 election workers.
Second the motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve the March 1st, 2011 election workers. Any discussion? I'd just like to thank all of you that volunteered to do this. This is very important to maintaining the political process that we have in this country. And it's really a thankless job to sit there all day, especially when you have 2 uncontested races. So, thank you. There's a motion, a second, and no further discussion to approve the list of election workers for the regular municipal election on March 1st, 2011. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2011-03, a resolution supporting an application by Jonathan Reed and Associates for federal tax credits and authorizing the town manager to indicate that support in the manner required by said application. Are you going to present that, Mike? Or? Go ahead.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. This resolution is to allow the town to apply for tax credits to assist with a low-income multifamily rental project of 60 units to be built on town property. This property will be donated to the project at a later date if the council so approves. The title of the program is Federal 9% Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program as governed by Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Tax Code, which is administered by the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority. The tax credits are issued to the project and are then sold on the open market at a discount. The money received from the sale is used for construction of the units. So 9% is, generally speaking, is 9% of the project, and we receive that over 10 years. And at the end of the total project, it amounts to approximately 60% of the project, and we're looking right now at probably $8.5 million. So 60% of that would be somewhere, a little over half of the $8.5 million. To qualify for a project, it's necessary to first have a managing partner, which must be either a nonprofit or a for-profit corporation whose mission includes low-income housing. Southwestern Regional Housing and Community Development Corporation, located in Deming and formerly known as Luna County Housing Corporation, has agreed to be the managing partner and will provide all of the pre-development funds for this project. They will also manage the rentals and the maintenance. It is also necessary to have a partner that will handle the development and a general contractor to carry out the construction, both of whom should be familiar with tax credit projects. Jonathan Reed and Associates will function as the developer, and Global Structures will be doing the actual construction. Both companies have excellent track records and have been recommended by DPS, which is the same architectural firm as doing our affordable housing project. The town's responsibility will consist only of donating the land and providing letters of support. In return, we will be receiving 60 units of badly needed new rental units. And the developer is talking about all townhouses that will be the same architecture as the affordable housing project. And we're proposing that this be done at the corner of Kelly and Durango, or south of that corner anyway. And so if there are any questions?
Well, I want to clarify a little bit. The reason that the resolution is a little bit more vague than what Mike discussed was that was the original discussion of that one site in the affordable housing subdivision. But since that time, the resolution is more vague as to the location that we're willing to work with them, because we're looking at alternate sites throughout the town, and we're also looking at private partnerships that may be built with private property owners rather than it just being the town. So that's why the resolution is more vague than it being in the subdivision, that affordable housing subdivision.
Councilor Benson.
So, yeah, because I was listening to what Mr. Ely was saying, and I know it doesn't really say anything about donating. It only says about supporting
Yes,
the application.
and that's why, because we're looking both at town property as well as private property, because I actually met with a private property owner that's willing to work with this project as well. So we are going to support the application, but the specific location will be determined by where it's best suited at being. Okay.
So I think, just to clarify, we're not at this point discussing any specific property or anything like that? We're just-
Originally, the original discussions were that, but since then, we've identified there's alternate sites that it could be located at, and so the location is more general now, because we're looking at many different sites.
I think what I'm trying to say is that just making sure that for clarification purposes, that so the public knows, it's right now that the resolution doesn't designate property whatsoever, it just support for an application.
Yes.
Councilor Wingsmith.
This is low income as opposed to affordable, completely different product. Is there any way we can get screwed on this? You can think of.
Another technical term.
Using that technical
Well, my note
term,
actually says, how can we get bitten? But can you think of a significant downside?
through all of the discussions and talking with everybody, what's good is having a partner like Luna County Housing Authority who works with these types of projects consistently. The developer and contractor, per Luna County Housing Authority, works on these projects all over the place, and they're very reputable. So, as of right now, we haven't, and we're not making a commitment today that puts us in that position.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just one more question to help me. The support, it just says support generally over and over again of said application. Is that support financial support, or is that support in terms of writing a letter of support?
It's support in what ways we can support it without doing anything financially right now. Because there's many different alternatives. It could be the donation of land to the development of a partnership with a private individual between this project and private property owners to do the project on private property. There's that wide range, no financial commitment from the town.
That kind of went along with, I think, Councilor Wheaton's first question, which I won't read.
More diplomatic.
Yeah. I wasn't going to repeat it.
Is there any questions, comments, suggestions, ideas from the audience? Mike, I'd like you to clarify and explain the very last whereas is the town council finds that the construction of low-income rental housing within the town will be beneficial to the town and its inhabitants and is necessary for the health, safety, and welfare of the town. And you had mentioned that there's a severe need for 60-unit low-income housing. Could you please explain to us how you came up with that?
It's numbers that came out of the housing plan that the council recently passed, and we had 3 consultants working on that, and that the number of housing units was based on a large amount of information that they've collected over a 3-year period.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor?
Councilor.
Something that I'm just curious about is when I've seen some of these low-income projects through HUD has established criteria so that these stay low income for numbers of years. Is there anything in this project or this tax credit program that would allow a developer to end up charging higher rents in the near future, or is this something that they would have to be locked into this low income scenario for a number of years, so that if we do end up in a position of donating land later in the future, we're not donating it to a profit center?
There is a possibility that one of these developments could be set up so that rents for 15 years, and the end of 15 years, those homes can be sold, townhouses or condos or whatever they are. This is not being designed. This is strictly rental, and since there's public money being put into it, there's no choice on the part of the developer. It will remain low-income rentals indefinitely.
Michael, I would suggest that you might mention the opportunities that this council will have as this project develops, as to its nature, as to its location, as to what control the town will have over that project.
Okay, the first thing that will happen after you pass this resolution, if you do, is then I have to prepare a letter for the mayor's signature that goes in with the application saying, if this project goes through, if the tax credits are approved, the town is willing to donate some property to this project. The next step after that, then, before we can do anything, will be followed up on your January 25th meeting with another resolution stating the same thing. After that, then, in order, if the town decides that they're going to donate the property that's needed to this project, we then have to come back with another ordinance saying, yes, we are going to donate property to this developer for this project. With the agreement, or going along with that ordinance, will be an agreement that says, if this tax credit project does not happen, this is all null and void.
So that leads me to the question, on the now therefore, you mentioned I'm going to write a letter, I'm going to sign a letter, but the now therefore says, hereby authorizes Alex C. Brown, town manager, to execute all documents necessary to accomplish those purposes. What might those be?
Primarily, it's this letter, or saying that the town, if this tax credit project goes through, and if it's going to be on city property, then the town will be willing to donate the property. And just as whenever we turn in any kind of a grant, we always come to you for a letter supporting that grant and the project. This is very similar.
Go ahead.
The concern I have is when you say we'd be willing to donate the land, again, it has to be subject to council. So the council tonight is not voting.
That's right.
On the issue of donating the land.
That's correct.
It's without even seeing the project. How will the project move through the planning department? Will it require a plat?
Yes.
So there'll be continuing opportunities for the council to see what's developing and to exert its influence on how it's developing, and even to reject the final plat, which would kill the project.
Right.
The tax credits go to the developer, correct?
That's correct.
So it's not going to the town, it's going to the developer.
Right.
The tax credits are an incentive to this developer to do this kind of a project, because the federal government has determined that this is a way to get capital investment into low-income housing. Is that correct? So when you mentioned a letter from the mayor, signed by the mayor, would the signature of the town manager, with a copy of this resolution, be good enough?
It would seem to me that it's good enough, yes.
Okay, then the resolution as it reads now, authorizing Alex to sign, would be fine. He's not going to sign anything that's giving away town property.
I'm quite comfortable with Alex's judgment. However, I would like to see that authorization removed from this, and I'll sign the letter. I'm here all week, performing every day.
Just trying to make your life easier.
I think that satisfies your immediate need. It's my job in the charter to carry out the laws and policies of the town. So I would rather see that removed. I'll sign the letter if this passes, and then we go through the whole process, which includes the land sale swap exchange ordinance that's on the books as well.
Right.
Councilor Best?
I think the only concern I have is the sentence that, you know, in this letter saying that we're willing to donate. I mean, we haven't even discussed what properties. Alex said there are other options, and it is a council decision, and I think that, I mean, somehow say that, I don't know if you could put wording in that letter that would say, you know, pursuant to town council
But
approval. Do you see what I'm saying?
the letter that you have before you is an introduction of the
Right.
resolution of mine. Just for the record, we'll separate the written document that was presented that mentions approving the land. It will not become later used as evidence of why we supported this resolution for institutional knowledge. Between the record of this meeting, which is Mike's testimony and Alex, and the questioning of the attorney, would be the basis of our decision, and we disregard.
The minutes would reflect that there was no commitment made on this vote to donate land. Now, when you speak of this letter, and you said that there has to be a line in this letter that says, and the council and the town is willing to, that is putting the cart before the horse, because there's been no vote on it. So you will say, and the council will entertain the donation of land. That would be about as far as you can go, except the sense of the council is that they would favorably entertain, which is fairly considered, but no promise.
Mr. Mayor, the application has to be on the 31st of this month. 3 months ago, when I was at the Housing Summit that the governor puts on every other year in Albuquerque, we had an opportunity to talk with developers and contractors and a lot of people that were involved with housing. And as a result of that summit, I contacted some people, and originally what I had in mind was to have them come down here and work with some private property owners downtown to convert some of the existing buildings to live workspace, like they've done at the Sawmill project in Albuquerque. So these two gentlemen came down, the developer and the contractor, looked over the town, and any of the buildings that we had there that were where the property owners were interested in doing something were not big enough. In order to do a project that makes it worthwhile to the developer and the contractor, it has to be a minimum of 60 units. But now for us to submit this application to the Mortgage Finance Authority, they have to some way feel assured that if the tax credits go through, that there's going to be property there for them to build on. Also, like most grants, this tax credit has a checkoff list, and you get points for certain items. And one of the items that are high on the list is if the town is willing to donate the property. So if we can get that across without saying absolutely we're going to give you this property, then
we can get that across in the letter, that we have every intention, that we find a value in the project,
right,
and we'll do within our power and what's beneficial to the town to make the project a success.
Right.
We cannot, and we've done this on many, many topics, this council absolutely refuses to sign a blank check.
I understand.
We have not been provided the details of all the properties that are available in the town, what their most beneficial uses are for the betterment of the town. The town manager's working with private property owners currently. You know, and this resolution doesn't say that we're going to donate. You know, it says we're going to support.
Right.
We can write a letter, and I know your neighbor in your office can definitely help us pull this off, where we go right up to that line, without binding the council, which neither one of us are authorized to do individually. I'm very confident in that. Any other discussion?
To go back to what the mayor brought up before last, was this last whereas. As far as the data goes for the severe need, I would personally like to see, instead of, in addition to the housing plan, because there's a problem perhaps that the projections from the housing plan, the data came from a housing bubble. So in addition to that, it would be nice to have perhaps a little census data, maybe a little bit of little information on housing stock, because I imagine that a lot of the housing stock, available houses that are on the market right now, if they stay on the market for a long time, will probably could go into the rental market. So it'd be nice to at least see those numbers.
You're depressing me, Counselor. As a property owner in this town, my property value is dropping as you're speaking.
You know, one of the points is that this is not a government project. This is a private enterprise, and if the private enterprise determines that it would be worth the capital gamble to him, that's really all he's asking us is, do you want low-income housing? Donate some land if you have it. If not, we can get it maybe from private property. He's looking as a developer, as a capitalist, as an investor to get some tax credits, and we're supporting him in that. That's really at this point, the only decision that has to be made, whether you want to support a private businessman who wants to build affordable housing or low-income housing in Silver City.
I fully agree with what you just said, and I think the question of whether we make an actual financial commitment comes at a later date.
Right.
That's correct.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Rose.
I move to approve resolution number 2011-03, a resolution supporting an application by Jonathan Reed and Associates for federal tax credits and authorizing the mayor to indicate that support in the manner required by said application.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated, and I suggest a friendly amendment. The body of the text has the same sentence, and that would need to be changed. Makes sense.
There's a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2011-03 as read with the change in the heading as to replacing town manager with mayor, and in the therefore changing Alex C. Brown town manager to James R. Marshall mayor. Any discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve. No further discussion. And that's approval with the amendment. Roll call.
Councilor Morales?
Aye.
Councilor Wheaton-Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Thompson?
Aye.
Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of RFP 10/11-2P, Silver City large-scale solar photovoltaic projects for the wastewater treatment plant and the Wellfields booster station. Alex, you're going to present?
I'll make the recommendation, then I have Peter Russell and Nick Cicilla here for any questions. Mayor and Council, it's staff's recommendation to enter into negotiations with Affordable Solar team with Solar Partners of Albuquerque, New Mexico, for the large-scale solar photovoltaic project for the wastewater treatment plant and the Wells Booster Station. It's also staff's recommendation, if negotiations fail, that with Affordable Solar Partners, that staff enter negotiations with American Capital Energy as the alternate recommendations, because they were very close.
So this is not an actual award by a set?
If negotiations, that we will enter into the contract with them, based on their proposal.
Okay. Comments from the audience? I know there's got to be somebody. In our packet was a letter, an email that was written by Nick Cicillo, who is here, of which I just comment, you kind of lost me in the email. You started out explaining what the acronyms were, and then you stopped. And I truly don't understand what some of them were.
The letter that I had written on behalf, or the email I had written on behalf of the evaluation committee, which is composed of myself, Peter Russell, Kurt Albershart, our wastewater treatment director, Robert, and Jim Kerstetter, and directed at the purchasing agent, basically said the recommendations were made for the following reason. And I enumerated those. There's certainly the high score, both in the proposal review and in the oral presentations, as well as the best price. The first abbreviations that I see have to do with Affordable Solar and Solar Power Partners, who is the team that the evaluation committee recommended to Ms. Norrero and the town manager. And I guess just to summarize, going back to Councilor Wheaton-Smith's criteria, the cost is no upfront money to us. This is under a power purchase agreement arrangement, which is legislated under law by the state, which allows a third-party utility solar developer to come in and make the installation, and received PRC, Public Regulation Commission, renewable energy certificates, which are then sold to the main utility, PNM, and which is basically the financial structure that makes this attractive to third parties, and obviously to jurisdictions like ourselves. Prior to the law, one had to basically buy a system outright. But with this arrangement, where the developer is the owner, operator, installer, basically everything, our relationship with them is basically as a mini utility, a mini PNM, if you will. And the proposed rate that they have given us is 6 cents at a flat rate for 20 years, 6 cents for 20 years, with no rate increase as one option, as opposed to, for wastewater treatment, 10.6 cents with who knows where the rate increases will go over 20 years. Just in a few months, the expectation is that PNM will receive somewhere between a 15 and 20% increase this year, and is expected to go back in the next 6 years, every 2 years, for additional rate requests. So that's kind of a combined cost and benefit response at the same time. How do we know that we're achieving that? Is the first time that we pay 6 cents a kilowatt hour versus 10.6 cents plus 15 to 20%, and who knows where in the next 20 years. So that's basically, I mean, there was a lot of details that we looked at in terms of technical specifications, experience and reputation, development plan and schedule, as well as price. And pretty much the clear outcome of that in terms of the recommendation, fell to Affordable Solar and Solar Power Partners. They came well-prepared to the orals. They had written, in our opinion, the best proposal, and it was a pleasure to review that and anticipate the savings. And Alex, if I may, we asked the three awardees on the short list, there were 4 bidders basically, but we asked for a savings analysis over the 20 years. Affordable Solar, again, by far, did a detailed analysis. The other 2 basically demurred as there was simply too many variables. But Affordable Solar laid out with their partner SPP a credible set of assumptions that while they had caveats, they project in one of their rate scenarios, which I think was 5 cents at a 1% escalation as opposed to 6 and flat, that the town would save over $1 million in net present value and close to $2 million in aggregate savings. That's a lot of money based on a very conservative analysis that projects based on national agency projections of 1.7% utility price increase per year over the next 20 years, when industry currently is projecting themselves 3%. So some of us believe that $1 million net present value savings could be substantially higher. So frankly, we're all elated to have the opportunity following in Santa Fe's footsteps. And that's all we've really done. There's nothing magic here. Santa Fe was the first to take the lead. Their system is up and operational now, and they're also saving quite a bit of money, basically getting free power. They got a high renewable energy certificate at 15 cents. The price to them, to the awarded contractor, SunEdison, was 15.5 cents. So they're essentially paying a half a cent for 20 years with no escalation for their wastewater treatment, which is just a little bit larger than the 1 megawatt that we're looking at here. And just to give a sense of the size of that, a 1 megawatt facility using 200-watt panels is composed of 5,000 solar panels. And we will have something just under that here, but it's a substantial, as I like to say to folks, because there are many other facilities here that are standing by waiting to see what happens here with us. But it's going to be like a spaceship landing here. Nobody believes it because there's nothing like this around in the area. Yet it exists up in Santa Fe, and it will exist here once an award is made if you choose to do so.
Thank you. Any questions for Nick? Councilor Wheaton?
I have a couple of them. The first question is on the technical side of it. This is purely a net metered system.
It is a net metered system. There will be an interconnection agreement required with P&M.
But there is no intent that it be able to provide pumping ability should the grid itself fail, correct?
Correct, because the quality of the power output from a system like this cannot properly feed a 3-phase commercial motor for the pumps.
My second question is, if the primary awardee, Affordable Solar and the Solar Power Partners, if we do move to the second one, which would be American Capital Energy, you had mentioned that the others hadn't done a very good job of analyzing future savings. If we have to go to the second provider, will we then be requiring a detailed analysis from them?
Yes, and they scored reasonably well, and they are doing the second large-scale solar installation in Santa Fe.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's for for you, Nick, or if it's for Alex, to somehow explain this in terms that to our residents about why this is beneficial for the town to do this.
Here, I'll go ahead and do that, Nick. Well, the reason that it's important is that, as you know, PNM is looking at raising the rates. So we've gone out to look, so if PNM raises the rates, and we don't have something in place like this, then the rate increase goes on to the town of Silver City to operate the wastewater treatment plant or our water system. So in essence, basically, the end user, the customer, has a rate increase on your electric system and on your water and sewer bill. So what we are trying to do is mitigate the rate increase to only your electric utility cost, and not pass it on to you here at the water, on the water source side of the utility. What we're also trying to do, the mayor and I have had multiple discussions with PNM, is to be able to have the metering systems installed in our region where we can take advantage of the peak and off-peak rates that have been approved by the PRC for PNM to charge, which are 17 point something cents for peak hours and 3 cents for off-peak hours. If we're able to do that, then the savings is even more, because basically what you're seeing with the wastewater treatment plant is our peak hour usage, we can't stop that. But what we've done is mitigated that by going to this type of system for our peak hour usage. Instead of paying 17 cents or even 10.65 cents, we'd be paying 6 cents. And if we're able to get the off-peak hour usage rate of 3 cents, we even mitigate it more. That's combined with the SCADA system, which we've already installed. We've already have the savings in manpower, but if we're able to get that same metering and rate structure with PNM, then we go from paying 10.65 cents a kilowatt hour to, like during the winter, most of our pumping is being done at night, paying 3 cents now. So what we paid last year just to operate the wastewater treatment plant was $240,000 in electricity. Just doing this would decrease our electric costs at the wastewater treatment down to approximately $120,000 to $160,000, between $80,000 and $100,000 savings in the first year. But that doesn't take into account any future rate increases, because we end up with a constant rate of 6.16 over a 20-year period. So the future savings analysis would have to be, I haven't worked on it, that future savings, but I'm looking just at the current situation. And again, if we're able to get the peak and off-peak hour usage rates with our water system, the combined savings ends up between $400,000 and $520,000 annually. So that's a significant savings, considering the town of Silver City's, we pay approximately $1.2 million a year in electricity costs. 80% of that comes from water and wastewater services.
I just want, because I know everyone who's watching this is saying, yeah, right, solar's very expensive. The town's going to wind up spending lots of money. So I want to reiterate, even though you've already said it, this is not going to cost us a dime.
There's no infrastructure, I think the only infrastructure cost that it cost to us is we had to purchase a little bit of property next to the wastewater treatment plant. But other than that, it's just an agreement to purchase power from them at a fixed rate over 20 years. Other than that, there is no cost to us whatsoever.
And the financing for the system is arranged by the developer And again, they own it and operate it, and they get reimbursed for their costs for buying the equipment, installing and operating and maintaining it by our paying them a rate on a monthly basis. But again, and I think just for clarity, for everybody's sake, the key thing here is the financing, the unique financing with this power purchase agreement, which allows an incentive to come basically through a payment from P&M to the installer, so that P&M can meet its state-mandated renewable energy portfolio standard by 2020. And so by buying those, quote, RECs, or renewable energy certificates, the price then becomes, for those who are early in the process and who are taking the risk to have the spaceship come down, which we personally feel is low, but to get in early, the savings are really, quite frankly, phenomenal. One important caveat or clarification is that, and Robert has stated, reminds me of this several times, and I'm glad I remembered it now, is that the savings will be against 80 to 85% of the total power for a given system like wastewater. There's a penalty if you overproduce, and so the sizing of the system is important based on some rather detailed analysis. But at wastewater, the usage there is fairly stable, and so we don't expect any issue there. But there is a safety margin of roughly 15 to 20% that the solar is designed not to cover. So for that 15 to 20%, we'd still be paying P&M rates to P&M. So basically, in general, 80% of that $240,000 will now be under potentially a 6-cent rate with zero increase for 20 years.
Discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Let's let the audience. Okay. Anybody else want to speak from the audience? Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James Baldwin, a county resident. Although I do live in the county, I am the last, my wife and I are the last home on the end of the water line that runs out Bear Mountain Road. So I do have a vested interest in this. What measures have been taken to insulate the town against power failure from the panels? That is, there could be cloudy days where there'd be very, very minimal production. There could be lightning strikes. There could be sabotage.
It's the grid.
Well, the grid, yes. If there's sabotage, if there's lightning strikes, then the owner of the utility would be responsible to repair and be responsible to get the system back up to provide us this power. So we get that guarantee of a certain amount of power. On cloudy days, the grid is our backup. So we always have a power source.
Yes, all right. Perhaps I'm not phrasing my question the way I thought I was. If the system goes down for some reason, for say 2 weeks, is the town insulated? Am I insulated from paying the higher rate because the system is down and you have to go back onto the P&M grid? Is there some form of compensation to the town from the supplier?
Okay.
Yes, there are performance guarantees in the contract, and I don't know where the thresholds are, but if they overproduce more than their generous estimate, and there's some complex math in here from what's called avoided generation cost from the utility. If you generate more power than you use, right now during a month. Most other states it's per year, and that actually works out better. Right now that's in discussion up in Santa Fe. So if you overproduce, you don't get the 15 cents, you get like 3.5 cents from them. So there's a limit in that contract that says if they overproduce past what they think they might overproduce, that we're not on the hook for that, they are. Similarly, if they underproduce, then they pay us. And there is a little bit of outage, there's a percentage in there that's figured in there because they figure a little bit of uptime and downtime. With a very large array like this that's redundant, the equipment is very, very carefully monitored at all times, and the panel production is monitored. They have to go out and get financing for this equipment. Their bankers have very strict standards about whose equipment and whether the company's got the financial balance sheet to carry off a warranty claim 20 years in the future. There's a lot of analysis that goes on behind the scenes that we get to benefit from, so I believe we're safe.
My question was answered. Will these panels be mounted in what manner? There are half a dozen or so different methods of mounting the panels. One can use a 6 or 8 inch diameter pipe pedestal. There can be a rack. They can be adjustable insofar as tilt. They can be Freon operated, or they can be electrically operated to track the sun.
The proposal for the wastewater treatment facility is a fixed array, not adjustable. They looked at a single axis tracker for the booster station, which, if I may just divert just a second, just for clarity, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're asking for authorization to proceed to negotiate for a contract for the booster station with an option, contract for wastewater with options for the booster station and the Gabby Hayes well field. The booster station is more complex because of the variables involved and also whether it's operated at night or during the day, and it fluctuates more. Hopefully between the SCADA system and some creativity when the actual awardee comes on board with further analysis, we would take time to look at that further. So what we would do the proposal is we would submit applications to P&M for interconnection agreements and to lock a renewable energy certificate price in place ASAP. We would then move forward ASAP with wastewater treatment. We would then take our time with the booster station to wait for the established new rates from P&M, to do the analysis, to see whether adding solar to the pump makes sense at Gabby Hayes, because it's the largest producer. I think Robert was saying it was 1/3 of the total water production of the wells, so it might make sense. I just wanted to caveat the difference between moving forward through construction and operation with wastewater and the option, which will take longer to study, for the booster and Gabby Hayes.
My question was not answered. I asked the mode of emplacement. Will it be a pedestal? Will it be a rack?
You want to answer that? The proposed method of attachment is pile driving steel into the ground after geotechnical work is completed, an engineering review, floodplain review. There's a lot of stuff that has to go on here. They believe, based on their understanding of the subsoil conditions, that driving piles is going to make better sense. And there will be a lot of engineers looking at this, and it will be it'll stay there for a while. The plan of record is to use a fixed tilt array. That could change to a tracker depending with the new REC numbers. There's a couple of different options there that will be made based on a combination of the rate that's available on the REC. There's some different windows for different, anyway, the bottom line is there may be a tracker, there may not, but they will be mounted on long vertical or north-south racks if there's a tracker. They'll be mounted on long east-west racks if they're a fixed tilt array. That racking is commercially engineered and provided by a company up in Albuquerque. And no, it's what was the name of the tracker company, Nick? Do you remember?
It's Array Technology.
Array Technologies makes the big tracker. But basically this stuff, they've got galvanized steel that's driven into the ground to a depth of 12 or 14 feet, I think. And then that's cut off at the top and there's stuff welded to it and it's really quite solid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody just want to raise their hand in support of the project? Anybody want to come on up? Anybody want to raise their hand in opposition to the project?
My name is Rick Holdridge. I'm from Deming. I've got 3 of these systems on my businesses. I'm doing an installation in cruises of about 100,000 watts. I want to really commend you guys, especially Nick, I've talked to him before, for your forethought and foresight in doing this, because in another year, this stuff won't be nearly as beneficial as it is now, and you guys got right in at the right time. You're doing the right thing at the right time. Probably should have done it a year ago, but you haven't done that. This is great. I commend you for having the foresight to look at this. I'm going to be pushing Deming to do a similar thing. They have a very similar wastewater treatment situation as you. The other place where it's perfect is for jails, because they have almost continuous use of electricity and hot water. So kudos to your staff for putting this thing together and pulling this off like you have.
Thanks, Rick. Any other comments? Councilman Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to accept staff's recommendation in the context of RFP 10/11-2P, which is to, with an alternate.
That's good. Thank you. There is a motion to accept staff recommendation on RFP 10/11-2P with the alternate. Is there a second?
I second the motion as stated.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Winsman.
Just have a comment. As many people know, I've had quite a few now solar electrical systems. The latest one is a net metered one. It's not as big as this. It's only 5 kilowatt system, but that's still quite large for a private house. And the point that the last gentleman made is very relevant on how these prices change. I missed it by a month with the power company. It made quite a difference. I still got 30% back from them in cash and roughly 30% tax credit or something like that. But it's made a big difference to my utility bill, because it went from roughly $90 a month to one of them was 12, and we had a very cloudy month and it shot up to $44. But that's still 50% of what it was before. So I am in favor of this. I've had battery systems, I've had direct pumping systems, and I've had net metered systems. So I like this and I support it.
I'm going to make this really quick, because Councilor Bedison's going to kill me if I don't. But I want to commend staff for their work on this, understanding that you are still entering into negotiations. As well, I want to commend the committee's got my title in it, and I still can't say it, but the Mayor's Climate Protection Change Committee, the group with the big name that did a whole lot of work in setting us up with their energy assessments of the town, all the citizens that worked on that, and then the Office of Sustainability that has worked really close with staff to get us to this point. And I want to thank all of you. And I think this is going to be one of the projects that has the greatest benefit. And for those that keep sending me emails about how horrible this stuff is, I believe we just spent 30 minutes at least talking about putting money back in your pocket. So send an email about that. So there's a motion, there's a second to approve the staff recommendation on RFP 10/11-2P with the alternate. And we'll call it good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Bedison.
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short recess.
Railshore, seconded.
There's a motion and a second for a short recess. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're in recess. We will call this meeting back to order, and the next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of bid 10/11-8 homeowner rehabilitation. And I believe we have Mr. Ely again?
No, I'll do this. Mayor Council, we received two bids for the bid 10/11-8 homeowner rehabilitation. It is staff's recommendation to award the bid to Chavez Plaster and Cement and Construction for a total amount of $25,421.14.
Any discussion? Discussion from the audience?
What's this at?
Location?
He can give you location. Location of the house.
I can't remember the block number, but it's on Yucca Street.
Councilor Whedon?
My favorite question, how much is it going to cost us?
How much what?
Is it going to cost us?
Nothing.
In fact, we make money on these projects because we get an administration fee for doing it.
Good deal. Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Entertain a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor?
I move that we approve bid 10/11-8 homeowner rehabilitation per staff's recommendation.
Second the motion is stated.
There's a motion and a second to approve bid 10/11-8 homeowner rehabilitation per staff recommendation. Any discussion? There's a motion, a second, no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is appointments of 3 members to the Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement Citizens Advisory Committee. If I'd have thought earlier, I'd have realized it was written on my paper. We have, oops, wrong one. We have 3 applicants. We've advertised and done our due diligence in advertising, trying to seek applicants. We have an application from Deborah James, from James Goodkind, who's present, and Frank Drysdale. And if there's no objection, I'd like to appoint the 3 of them to continue the good work of this committee.
No objection.
We have consensus of the council of their appointments. We could send them their letters. They're duly appointed. Next item on the agenda is appointment to Parks and Recreation Board. We have 2 applicants that are from out of the town limits. We have 1 opening for an out-of-town limit position and 1 for a town resident. And I would like to appoint Henry Roan, who I do personally know, and I think will do very well on this. Is there any objection?
No objection. No objection.
There being no objection, we have consensus of the council, and Mr. Roan is hereby appointed. We'll send him the proper letter. And the next item on the agenda is discussion on the direction for Penny Park.
Current council, the plans have been completed by the engineers for the reconstruction of Penny Park. The ground, the dirt that had high levels of arsenic was removed and replaced. So we are ready for construction. The engineer's estimate came in lower than what they preliminarily told me for construction by a contractor. So the engineer's estimate was approximately $110,000 to put it out to bid. They did give me an estimate for materials, and I can't remember what that is, but we shouldn't have a problem covering the cost whatsoever for materials if we go the volunteer route. So it's up to you how you choose to proceed.
Discussion?
I really got one comment, is we need to proceed.
I agree, we need to proceed. I'm wondering if now that we're at the point, if we shouldn't make it well known that we're at this point of proceeding, and see if anybody can present us a plan to effectively complete the project as a community project.
And we might have a deadline on how, when they come up with that plan.
That would be our next meeting. Is there any other discussion? I think there was great interest in making it a community rebuild project. I want to make sure that the meetings that were held by the community and the people that expressed interest have an opportunity to come back, and now that we're at this point, and make a presentation. And what I would really be looking for is one plan that is well put together. How are they going to accomplish this in a timely, safe, organized manner that does not burden the town with uninsured bills? Councilor.
So the plan would be delivered to the next meeting? I mean, I would hope that there's a lot of community interest last year, and I would hope that it's moved forward so that it can produce this in a really timely fashion, because I don't think we want to wait much longer. I think we've been working on this for quite a while and trying to get this back, and we really want to make sure that Penny Park is up and running for summer for kids.
I agree. Any discussion from the audience on this topic? Or where we're headed? Any objection to giving direction to staff that, one, this is back on the agenda the next meeting for final decision, whether we use a volunteer community build or if you're directed to put it out to bid? No objection?
No.
Comfortable? I believe we're done.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion carried.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.